Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered why you suddenly appear older than you feel inside? Those new wrinkles around your eyes, that unexpected stiffness in your joints, the way your energy seems to vanish by mid-afternoon. What if I told you that the culprit might be sitting right on your plate, disguised as perfectly harmless, even healthy foods that you consume every single day? This isn't about natural aging. No, what we're talking about today is accelerated aging, the kind that happens when your body is silently under attack from the inside, the kind that makes you look and feel 70 when you're only 55, the kind that steals your golden years before they've even begun. You see, across America, millions of adults over 50 are unknowingly consuming 5 specific foods that scientific research has linked directly to premature aging. These aren't exotic ingredients or rare indulgences. They're everyday staples that most Americans eat without a second thought. Foods that society has convinced us are wholesome, nutritious, or at the very least, harmless. But here's the shocking truth. These 5 common foods are silently wreaking havoc on your cellular health. They're triggering inflammation throughout your body, damaging your DNA, oxidizing your cells, and essentially putting your aging process into hyperdrive. And the worst part, most doctors won't tell you about this connection. Most nutritionists overlook it. And the food industry? Well, they certainly don't want you to know. Imagine for a moment what's happening inside your body right now. Every time you consume these foods, it's like adding another drop of rust to the delicate machinery of your cells. One meal won't do noticeable damage, but day after day, year after year, these drops accumulate. The rust spreads, the machinery breaks down, and suddenly you're not just aging, you're deteriorating. That unexplained fatigue, those aching joints, the brain fog that makes you forget why you walked into a room, the sagging skin that no cream seems to fix. These aren't just normal signs of aging, as we've been led to believe. They're warning signals that your body is aging too fast, too soon, and your diet could be the primary accelerator. Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn, who won the Nobel Prize for her work on telomeres, the protective caps on our chromosomes that shorten as we age, found that certain dietary patterns can dramatically speed up telomere shortening. When your telomeres become too short, your cells can no longer divide properly. They become senescent, zombie cells that should die but don't, instead lingering to cause inflammation and damage to surrounding healthy cells. What's truly alarming is how these 5 foods specifically target your body's most vulnerable systems as you age. They don't just make you look older, they make you function older. They compromise your cardiovascular system, weaken your immune response, diminish your cognitive abilities, and undermine your metabolic health at a time when these systems are already facing natural challenges. But here's what gives me hope, and what should give you hope too. Unlike many aspects of aging that we can't control, this is one area where you have complete power. You can choose what goes on your plate. You can decide, starting today, whether you'll continue to accelerate your aging process or whether you'll put the brakes on and even potentially reverse some of the damage that's already been done. Today, I'm going to reveal these 5 aging accelerators hiding in plain sight in your kitchen. Foods that you might be eating for breakfast this very morning, or planning to have for dinner tonight. Foods that food manufacturers market as healthy options, especially for adults over 50, when in reality, they're sabotaging your health and accelerating your body's decline. But I won't just leave you with bad news. Knowledge without action is useless, which is why I'll also share with you the exact foods you should be eating instead, the age-defying alternatives that can help protect your cells, reduce inflammation, support your body's natural repair mechanisms, and potentially add years of vibrant health to your life. This isn't about following some complicated diet plan or depriving yourself of everything you enjoy. It's about making informed choices based on scientific evidence that could dramatically change how you age from this day forward. Small substitutions that lead to profound transformations in how you look, feel, and function as the years pass. Let me tell you about Martha, a 67-year-old viewer who wrote to me after implementing the changes I'm about to share with you. Martha had been experiencing what she called old person symptoms since her late 50s. Joint pain so severe she could barely play with her grandchildren, skin that seemed to develop new wrinkles weekly, and a mental fogginess that frightened her into thinking she might be developing dementia. Her doctors ran tests and found nothing specifically wrong. "It's just age," they told her. "Take some pain relievers and accept it." But Martha refused to accept that her quality of life should diminish so dramatically when she still had so much living to do. After watching one of my videos and eliminating the 5 foods I'm about to reveal to you, Martha experienced what she calls a miraculous transformation. Within just 3 weeks, her joint pain had diminished by 70%. Her energy levels soared. Her skin began to regain some of its former elasticity. And that mental fog, it lifted, revealing the sharp mind she feared she'd lost forever. "I feel like I've reclaimed 10 years of my life," Martha wrote, "not just in how I look, but in how I feel inside my own body. I can play with my grandkids again. I can remember names and dates. I wake up looking forward to the day instead of dreading the pain of moving my stiff body out of bed." Martha's story isn't unique. I receive similar testimonials daily from viewers who have made these simple but powerful changes. People who thought their best days were behind them, only to discover that they were standing at the threshold of some of their healthiest, most vibrant years. The truth about aging is that while we can't stop the clock, we absolutely can control the speed at which our bodies age at the cellular level. And diet is one of the most powerful levers we have to either accelerate or decelerate that process. Recent research from the Buck Institute for Research on Aging has shown that dietary choices can influence over 900 different genetic pathways related to aging and longevity. That means what you eat doesn't just affect your weight or your cholesterol, it literally communicates with your genes, telling them whether to trigger inflammatory responses, oxidative damage, or cellular repair and renewal. The 5 foods I'm about to reveal have been shown in multiple peer-reviewed studies to send the wrong messages to your genes. They essentially tell your body to speed up the aging process, to break down faster, to repair less efficiently. They're like pressing the fast-forward button on your biological clock, but the foods I'll recommend as alternatives, they do the opposite. They send signals that support cellular health, that reduce inflammation, that activate longevity pathways, and that help your body maintain its youthful function for years, even decades, longer than it otherwise might. Before I reveal these 5 aging accelerators, I want to know if you're truly ready to hear this information. Some of what I'm about to share might challenge beliefs you've held for years about what constitutes a healthy diet. It might mean saying goodbye to foods you've enjoyed throughout your life. It might even mean acknowledging that some of your current health challenges could be connected to dietary choices you've made. That's not easy to face. But if you're still with me, I believe you're the kind of person who values truth over comfort, who's willing to make changes today for a better tomorrow, who refuses to accept unnecessary decline as an inevitable part of aging. If that describes you, I'd like you to do something right now. Type "I'm ready" in the comments section below. This simple action does 2 things. It affirms your commitment to your own health and longevity, and it helps our video reach others who might benefit from this potentially life-changing information. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Every week we share the latest research on healthy aging that you simply won't hear from mainstream media or even from many healthcare providers who haven't kept up with the cutting-edge science of longevity. Now let's talk about what's really going on inside your body when you consume these 5 foods. When we hit our 50s and beyond, our bodies face 3 major challenges that make certain foods particularly damaging. First, our inflammatory response changes. While inflammation is a necessary part of our immune function, as we age, we tend to develop what scientists call inflammaging, a chronic, low-grade inflammation throughout the body that damages cells and accelerates aging. Certain foods can dramatically worsen this inflammaging process. Second, our digestive system becomes less efficient. We produce fewer digestive enzymes. Our gut barrier becomes more permeable, leading to what's commonly called leaky gut. And our gut microbiome, the trillions of bacteria that help us digest food and maintain immune health, often becomes less diverse. This means certain foods that your body handled well in your 30s and 40s can become major problems in your 50s, 60s, and beyond. Third, our metabolic flexibility declines. Our cells become less responsive to insulin. Our mitochondria, the powerhouses of our cells, become less efficient at producing energy, and our body becomes less adept at detoxifying harmful compounds. Foods that trigger blood sugar spikes or that contain certain toxins become much more damaging than they were when we were younger. With these 3 age-related changes in mind, let's unveil the 5 foods that take advantage of these vulnerabilities to accelerate aging far beyond what's natural or necessary. And remember, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to taking control of how you age. The first aging accelerator might be the most insidious because it's virtually impossible to avoid unless you're vigilantly reading labels and preparing most of your meals at home. I'm talking about processed vegetable oils, particularly soybean oil, corn oil, canola oil, sunflower oil, and safflower oil. These oils have become ubiquitous in the American diet, found in everything from salad dressings to breakfast cereals, from restaurant meals to packaged snacks. They're cheap to produce, have a long shelf life, and have been marketed as heart-healthy alternatives to saturated fats. But the reality is far more complicated and concerning, especially for adults over 50. Let me explain exactly what happens in your body when you consume these oils regularly. Unlike stable fats like olive oil or avocado oil, these highly processed vegetable oils are rich in polyunsaturated fatty acids, PUFAs, particularly omega-6 fatty acids. While we do need some omega-6 in our diet, the modern American diet provides these fats in quantities 10 to 20 times higher than what humans historically consumed. When these oils are heated, whether during the manufacturing process or when you cook with them, they undergo a transformation. They become oxidized, creating compounds called lipid peroxides and aldehydes that are directly toxic to your cellular DNA and proteins. Imagine these compounds as tiny molecular wrecking balls, damaging the very building blocks of your cells. Dr. Frances Sladek, a professor of cell biology at UC Riverside, has shown in her research that these oxidized oils can damage the mitochondria in your cells, the energy factories that power everything your body does. As we age, mitochondrial function naturally declines, but these oils accelerate that decline dramatically. The result? Fatigue that no amount of sleep seems to fix. Muscle weakness that makes everyday activities exhausting, brain fog that leaves you feeling like you're thinking through molasses. But it gets worse. These oils also trigger what immunologists call a cytokine storm in your body, an overproduction of inflammatory compounds that circulate through your bloodstream, affecting virtually every organ system. Your skin loses elasticity faster. Your joints become inflamed and painful. Your arteries develop inflammation that can lead to plaque buildup. Your brain tissue becomes inflamed, potentially accelerating cognitive decline. A study published in the journal Nutrients found that high consumption of these processed oils was associated with significantly elevated markers of inflammation and oxidative stress, 2 of the primary drivers of accelerated aging. The researchers found that these effects were particularly pronounced in subjects over 55, suggesting that our bodies become more vulnerable to this damage as we age. What many people don't realize is that these oils don't just affect how we age physically, They impact how we age mentally as well. Your brain is approximately 60% fat, and the type of fats you consume directly affects the composition of your brain cell membranes. The rigid oxidized fats from processed oils can make these membranes less fluid, hampering communication between brain cells and potentially contributing to cognitive decline. Dr. Catherine Shanahan, a physician and nutritionist who served as the director of the Los Angeles Lakers PRO nutrition program, calls these oils the perfect storm for accelerating aging. She explains that they affect the body at the most fundamental level, our cell membranes, altering how our cells communicate and function. When you consume these oils regularly, Dr. Shanahan explains, you're essentially programming your cells for premature aging. The body incorporates these damaged fats into cell membranes, where they continue to oxidize and spread damage like a contagion throughout the cell. What makes this particularly troubling is how deeply these oils have penetrated the American food supply. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that approximately 20% of the calories in the average American diet now come from soybean oil alone. Where are you most likely to encounter these aging accelerators? They're in virtually all commercial salad dressings. They're the primary oils used in most restaurants, especially fast food establishments. They're in most packaged crackers, cookies, and baked goods. They're even in many health foods like veggie chips, plant-based meat alternatives, and granola bars. And here's a shocking truth the food industry doesn't want you to know. Many of these oils are extracted using chemical solvents like hexane, a petroleum byproduct that may leave residues in the final oil. They're then often bleached, deodorized, and otherwise chemically manipulated to create a product that bears little resemblance to anything found in nature. Your body, designed over millennia to process natural foods, simply doesn't know how to handle these industrial creations properly. The damage from these oils accumulates over time, like interest on a debt. A single meal containing these oils won't immediately age you, but a lifetime of consumption, especially during your 50s, 60s, and beyond when your body's repair systems are already slowing down, can dramatically accelerate how quickly your body and mind deteriorate. The second aging accelerator might be sitting on your breakfast plate right now, or perhaps you're planning to have it for dinner tonight. I'm talking about foods high in advanced glycation end products, or AGEs, a fitting acronym given their effect on your body. AGEs form when proteins or fats combine with sugars in a process called glycation. This chemical reaction happens naturally in our bodies at a low level, but it accelerates dramatically when certain cooking methods are used, particularly grilling, frying, roasting, or broiling at high temperatures. The foods highest in AGEs: crispy bacon, well-done steak, grilled chicken with charred edges, brown toast, roasted nuts, and anything caramelized or with a browned crust. That golden brown color we've been taught indicates deliciousness is actually a visual indicator of AGEs forming. Why are AGEs so detrimental to how we age, particularly after 50? Let me explain the cellular mechanism. When AGEs enter your bloodstream, they attach themselves to specific receptors on your cells called RAGEs, receptors for advanced glycation end products. This binding triggers a cascade of inflammation throughout your body. But unlike acute inflammation that resolves once a threat is eliminated, this inflammation becomes chronic, simmering at a low level and damaging tissues throughout your body. Dr. Helen Vlasara, a professor and director of the Division of Experimental Diabetes and Aging at the Mount Sinai School of Medicine, has spent decades studying AGEs. Her research has shown that high levels of dietary AGEs correlate directly with accelerated aging, particularly of the skin, kidneys, brain, and cardiovascular system. What makes AGEs particularly devastating for aging adults is their affinity for collagen, the protein that gives structure to your skin, joints, blood vessels, and organs. As we age, we naturally produce less collagen, and what we do produce is less resilient. AGs exacerbate this problem by cross-linking with collagen fibers, making them stiff and non-functional. Think about what happens to a piece of meat when you overcook it. It becomes tough and leathery. A similar process is happening to your tissues. When high levels of AGs circulate in your bloodstream, your skin loses elasticity faster, leading to deeper wrinkles and sagging. Your arteries become stiffer, raising blood pressure and increasing cardiovascular risk. Your joints become less flexible, leading to stiffness and pain. But perhaps most alarming is the effect of AGs on brain aging. Research published in the journals of gerontology showed that higher levels of AGs in the blood were associated with accelerated cognitive decline and an increased risk of dementia. The researchers found that AGs promote inflammation and oxidative stress in brain tissue, potentially contributing to the formation of the plaques and tangles characteristic of Alzheimer's disease. The insidious nature of AGs is that they create a vicious cycle in the body. As they accumulate, they trigger inflammation, which creates oxidative stress, which then accelerates the formation of more AGs. It's like a snowball rolling downhill, gathering size and momentum as it goes. What many people don't realize is that this process accelerates dramatically after age 50. Dr. Jamie Uribari, a professor of medicine at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai, explains, as we age, our body's natural detoxification systems become less efficient at removing AGs. Simultaneously, our repair mechanisms slow down, meaning the damage from AGs accumulates faster and persists longer. A study published in the Journal of the American Dietetic Association found that a single meal high in AGs can temporarily impair arterial function, even in healthy individuals. For those over 50 whose cardiovascular systems are already facing age-related challenges, this repeated assault meal after meal, day after day, can have serious consequences for heart health and stroke risk. Where are you most likely to encounter these aging accelerators? Unfortunately, many of the cooking methods we associate with flavor, grilling, roasting, frying, broiling, dramatically increase age content in food. A piece of chicken breast cooked by boiling contains about 1,000 kilonewtons of AGs, while the same piece grilled contains about 7,000 Ku, a 5 to 7-fold increase. Processed meats like bacon, sausage, hot dogs, and deli meats are among the highest sources of dietary AGs, both because of their processing methods and because they're often cooked at high temperatures. Toasted bread products, including breakfast cereals, crackers, and chips, are also significant sources. Perhaps most surprisingly, many foods marketed specifically to older adults as healthy options, like protein bars, meal replacement shakes, and convenient pre-packaged meals, often contain high levels of AGs due to their processing methods and shelf-stable requirements. The cumulative effect of consuming high-age foods throughout your 50s, 60s, and beyond essentially puts your aging process into overdrive. Your body spends so much energy fighting the inflammation these compounds trigger that it has fewer resources available for basic maintenance and repair functions. The result is accelerated aging that affects virtually every system in your body. The third aging accelerator encompasses a broad category that's become increasingly dominant in the American diet: ultra-processed foods. These aren't simply foods that have been minimally processed like washed salad greens or frozen vegetables. Ultra-processed foods are industrial formulations made with ingredients you wouldn't find in a home kitchen: hydrogenated oils, hydrolyzed proteins, modified starches, artificial flavors, colors, sweeteners, and preservatives. Common examples include most breakfast cereals, packaged snack foods, frozen ready meals, soft drinks, reconstituted meat products like chicken nuggets, instant soups, and many products labeled as diet or low-fat options. What makes these particularly problematic for adults over 50 is how they affect one of the body's most critical but overlooked aging systems, your gut microbiome. Let me explain why this matters so profoundly for how you age. Your gut microbiome, the ecosystem of trillions of bacteria that live in your digestive tract, isn't just involved in digestion. It's intimately connected to your immune function, hormone regulation, neurotransmitter production, nutrient absorption, and even how your genes express themselves. In essence, the health of your microbiome significantly influences how quickly or slowly you age. Dr. Emmerin Mayer, a gastroenterologist and neuroscientist at UCLA, explains the connection. The gut microbiome is like the conductor of an orchestra, coordinating countless bodily functions. When that conductor is compromised, the entire symphony of your health begins to play out of tune. Research published in the journal Nature shows that as we age, our gut microbiome naturally becomes less diverse, with potentially beneficial bacterial species declining and potentially harmful ones increasing. This shift has been linked to increased inflammation, decreased immune function, reduced cognitive performance, and many other hallmarks of aging. Ultra-processed foods accelerate this unfavorable shift in your microbiome through multiple mechanisms. First, they're typically very low in fiber, which is the primary food source for beneficial gut bacteria. Without adequate food, these beneficial populations decline rapidly. Second, many ultra-processed foods contain emulsifiers, preservatives, and artificial sweeteners that research has shown can directly damage the gut lining, leading to increased intestinal permeability, commonly known as leaky gut. A study published in the journal Gut showed that common food additives like polysorbate 80 and carboxymethyl cellulose, often listed as cellulose gum on ingredient labels, can alter gut bacteria composition and increase gut inflammation. When your gut barrier becomes compromised, partially digested food particles and bacterial components can leak into your bloodstream, triggering a system-wide inflammatory response. This phenomenon, which researchers call metabolic endotoxemia, has been linked to accelerated aging of virtually every organ system in the body. Dr. Alessio Fasano, director of the Center for Celiac Research and Treatment at Massachusetts General Hospital, describes it this way. When the gut barrier fails, it's like the walls of your fortress have been breached. Your body diverts tremendous resources to fighting these invaders, resources that would otherwise be used for cellular repair and regeneration. The impact on aging is profound. A study published in BMJ Open found that a 10% increase in ultra-processed food consumption was associated with a 14% higher risk of early death from all causes. The researchers noted that the inflammatory effects of these foods appeared to be particularly pronounced in subjects over 60. What many people don't realize is how these foods affect brain aging specifically. Your gut and brain are in constant communication via what scientists call the gut-brain axis. Many of the neurotransmitters that regulate your mood, cognition, and sleep are actually produced or influenced by your gut bacteria. Dr. David Perlmutter, a neurologist and author of Brain Maker, explains, when ultra-processed foods disrupt the microbiome, they're not just affecting your digestion, they're potentially rewiring your brain chemistry. Research from his lab and others has shown connections between gut dysbiosis, an unhealthy microbiome, and accelerated cognitive decline, mood disorders, and neurodegenerative diseases. Perhaps most concerning is the effect of ultra-processed foods on what scientists call inflammaging, the chronic low-grade inflammation that characterizes aging and contributes to most age-related diseases. A study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found that ultra-processed foods trigger immune sensors in the gut that heighten this inflammatory response, essentially putting your aging process into overdrive. Where are you most likely to encounter these aging accelerators? Unfortunately, They're everywhere. Ultra-processed foods now account for nearly 60% of the calories consumed in the American diet. They dominate grocery store shelves, particularly in the middle aisles. They're designed to be convenient, affordable, and have a long shelf life, all qualities that make them particularly appealing to older adults who may be cooking for fewer people or dealing with limited mobility or energy. Many products, specifically marketed to seniors as convenient or easy meal options, fall squarely in the ultra-processed category. Meal replacement shakes, senior formula nutrition drinks, frozen dinners marketed as healthy options, and many heart-healthy or low-sodium packaged foods are often highly processed formulations that may be harming your microbiome and accelerating how quickly you age. The cumulative effect of consuming these foods throughout your 50s, 60s, and beyond is a progressively less diverse, less functional microbiome that contributes to system-wide inflammation, decreased immune function, cognitive decline, and accelerated physical aging. Your gut microbiome has been called your second genome because of its profound influence on how your genes express themselves. And ultra-processed foods essentially reprogram that genome to express patterns associated with accelerated aging. The fourth aging accelerator is one that many of us have a complex relationship with: added sugars. I'm not talking about the natural sugars found in whole fruits or vegetables, but rather the refined sugars added to foods during processing or preparation. Things like high fructose corn syrup, table sugar, honey, maple syrup, and even natural sweeteners like agave nectar. These added sugars are ubiquitous in the American diet, found not just in obvious sources like desserts and sodas, but hidden in everything from bread to pasta sauce, from salad dressing to yogurt. The average American consumes about 17 teaspoons of added sugar daily, more than 3 times the recommended limit for women and more than twice the recommended limit for men. Why are added sugars particularly problematic for adults over 50? The answer lies in a process called glycation, the same process involved in forming those AGs we discussed earlier, but this time happening inside your body rather than during cooking. When you consume foods high in added sugars, your blood glucose levels rise rapidly. Some of this excess glucose attaches to proteins in your bloodstream through glycation, forming what are called advanced glycation end products, internal AGs. These compounds damage your tissues in exactly the same way as the AGs formed during high-temperature cooking. Dr. Anthony Hegarty, professor of medicine at the University of Manchester, explains, glycation is like rust forming on the intricate machinery of your cells. It stiffens tissues that should be flexible, impairs function, and triggers inflammation. And unfortunately, this process accelerates dramatically as we age. What makes added sugars particularly damaging for older adults is the way our glucose metabolism changes as we age. After 50, many adults begin to develop some degree of insulin resistance, a condition where cells become less responsive to insulin, the hormone that helps glucose enter cells from the bloodstream. This means that after consuming sugary foods, glucose remains elevated in the bloodstream longer, providing more opportunity for glycation to occur. The impact on aging is multifaceted and affects virtually every system in your body. Your skin, glycation damages collagen and elastin, the proteins that give your skin its structure and elasticity. A study published in the British Journal of Dermatology found that subjects with higher blood sugar levels had significantly more advanced skin aging, including deeper wrinkles and loss of elasticity compared to those with lower blood sugar levels. The researchers noted that this effect was particularly pronounced after age 50, when the skin's repair mechanisms naturally slow down. Your brain. Your brain uses more glucose than any other organ, making it particularly vulnerable to glycation damage. Research published in the New England Journal of Medicine found that even modestly elevated blood glucose levels were associated with an increased risk of dementia. The study authors noted that this connection was strongest in subjects over 65, suggesting that the aging brain becomes increasingly vulnerable to the effects of sugar over time. Your cardiovascular system. Glycation damages the proteins in your blood vessel walls, making them stiff and inflexible. This contributes to hypertension, one of the primary risk factors for heart disease and stroke. A study in JAMA Internal Medicine found that subjects who consumed 25% or more of their daily calories from added sugar had nearly 3 times the risk of dying from cardiovascular disease compared to those who consumed less than 10%. Your joints. Glycation affects the collagen in your joints, contributing to stiffness and arthritis. Research in the Annals of the Rheumatic Diseases found that subjects with higher average blood glucose levels experienced more rapid progression of osteoarthritis, particularly in weight-bearing joints like the knees and hips. But perhaps the most insidious effect of added sugars is how they accelerate cellular senescence, a state where cells stop dividing but don't die, instead lingering to release inflammatory compounds that damage surrounding tissues. Dr. Judith Campisi, a professor at the Buck Institute for Research on Aging, has shown in her research that high glucose environments promote senescence in various cell types. These zombie cells, as they're sometimes called, are now recognized as major contributors to the aging process. A study published in Cell Metabolism demonstrated that even short-term exposure to elevated glucose levels could trigger long-term changes in gene expression related to aging and longevity. The researchers found that these epigenetic changes, alterations in how your genes express themselves without changing the underlying DNA, could persist for months after blood sugar levels return to normal, suggesting that the occasional sugar binge could have lasting effects on how quickly you age. What many people don't realize is that the damage from added sugars extends beyond physical aging to impact cognitive aging as well. Dr. Suzanne de la Monte, a neuropathologist at Brown University, has coined the term type 3 diabetes to describe the relationship between insulin resistance in the brain and Alzheimer's disease. Her research suggests that high sugar consumption contributes to insulin resistance in brain tissue, potentially accelerating cognitive decline and increasing dementia risk. Where are you most likely to encounter these aging accelerators? Unfortunately, they're hiding in plain sight throughout the American food supply. According to the USDA, added sugars are found in approximately 74% of packaged foods. They appear under dozens of different names on ingredient labels, making them difficult to identify and track. Particularly concerning are foods specifically marketed as healthy options for older adults. Many breakfast cereals advertised as heart healthy contain more added sugar than a glazed donut. Protein bars marketed for active seniors often contain as much sugar as a candy bar. Even products labeled no added sugar may contain fruit juice concentrates or other sweeteners that affect your body in exactly the same way as table sugar. The cumulative effect of consuming added sugars throughout your 50s, 60s, and beyond is accelerated aging at the cellular level, with particularly pronounced effects on your skin, brain, heart, and joints, the very systems that most visibly and functionally define how we experience aging. The fifth and final aging accelerator might come as a surprise, as many people turn to it specifically as a healthier alternative to sugar, artificial sweeteners. These include aspartame, found in equal and many diet sodas, sucralose, Splenda, saccharin, sweet and low, and newer options like acesulfame, potassium, and neotame. For decades, these sweeteners have been marketed as guilt-free ways to satisfy sweet cravings without the calories or blood sugar impact of regular sugar. Many adults over 50 consume them regularly in diet or sugar-free products, believing they're making a choice that supports healthy aging. Unfortunately, Emerging research suggests these compounds may be accelerating aging through multiple mechanisms that are particularly impactful after 50. Dr. Susan Swithers, a professor of psychological sciences at Purdue University who has studied artificial sweeteners extensively, explains the fundamental problem. These compounds trick your body. They activate sweet taste receptors, but don't deliver the calories your body expects to receive after that sweet taste signal. This creates a fundamental mismatch in your metabolic systems. This mismatch has profound implications for how we age. Let me explain the specific mechanisms through which artificial sweeteners may be accelerating your aging process. First, contrary to their intended purpose, artificial sweeteners appear to promote insulin resistance rather than prevent it. A study published in Nature found that regular consumption of artificial sweeteners altered gut bacteria in ways that compromised glucose tolerance, essentially making the body less efficient at processing sugar. This effect was most pronounced in older subjects and those who were already showing signs of prediabetes. Dr. Aaron Elinav, an immunologist at the Weizmann Institute of Science and one of the study's authors, notes, "Our findings suggest that non-caloric artificial sweeteners may have directly contributed to enhancing the exact epidemic they themselves were intended to fight." For adults over 50, who are already at increased risk for insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes, this effect can accelerate metabolic aging significantly. Second, artificial sweeteners appear to disrupt the gut microbiome in ways that promote inflammation and metabolic dysfunction. Research published in the journal Molecules showed that consumption of artificial sweeteners altered the composition of gut bacteria, reducing beneficial species and increasing potentially harmful ones. This disruption was associated with increased markers of systemic inflammation, a key driver of accelerated aging. What makes this particularly concerning for older adults is that our gut microbiome naturally becomes less diverse and resilient as we age. The additional disruption from artificial sweeteners can push an already vulnerable system into a state of dysbiosis that accelerates aging throughout the body. Third, some artificial sweeteners appear to have direct neurotoxic effects that may accelerate brain aging. A study published in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that aspartame consumption was associated with an increased risk of depression, mood disorders, and poorer cognitive function in older adults. The researchers hypothesized that this might be due to aspartame's breakdown products, which include phenylalanine, which can cross the blood-brain barrier, and methanol, which converts to formaldehyde in the body. Dr. Robert Lustig, a pediatric endocrinologist and professor emeritus at the University of California, San Francisco, explains, "The brain becomes more vulnerable to toxins as we age due to changes in the blood-brain barrier and declining detoxification mechanisms. Compounds that might have minimal impact on a younger brain can have significant effects on an aging one." Fourth, artificial sweeteners may accelerate cardiovascular aging. A study following over 81,000 women for 11 years, published in the journal Stroke, found that women who consumed 2 or more artificially sweetened beverages daily had a 23% higher risk of stroke and a 29% higher risk of heart disease compared to women who rarely consumed these beverages. The association was strongest among women over 50. Perhaps most concerning is emerging evidence that some artificial sweeteners may promote cellular senescence. That accumulation of zombie cells we discussed earlier, that's a hallmark of accelerated aging. Research published in the journal Aging found that exposure to sucralose induced senescence-like changes in human cells, including increased production of inflammatory compounds and reduced cellular replication. Where are you most likely to encounter these aging accelerators? They're found in thousands of products marketed as diet, light, or sugar-free. Diet sodas are perhaps the most obvious source, but artificial sweeteners are also hiding in yogurts, protein powders, breath mints, chewing gum, flavored waters, and many products specifically marketed to diabetics or those watching their weight. What many people don't realize is that these sweeteners are also found in many products not advertised as diet foods, including children's vitamins, liquid medications, toothpaste, and mouthwash. This means many people are consuming these compounds without even realizing it. Particularly concerning is the prevalence of artificial sweeteners in products specifically marketed to older adults. Many senior nutrition drinks, meal replacement shakes, and supplements contain these compounds. The irony is that these products, often consumed with the intention of supporting health in aging, may be doing exactly the opposite. The cumulative effect of consuming artificial sweeteners throughout your 50s, 60s, and beyond is a potentially significant acceleration of the aging process through disrupted metabolism, altered gut microbiome, increased inflammation, and possibly direct cellular damage. What makes this particularly troubling is that many people increase their consumption of diet products as they age, believing they're making choices that support healthy longevity. Dana Small, a neuroscientist at Yale University who studies the effects of artificial sweeteners on the brain, summarizes the concern. These compounds fundamentally confuse the body's metabolic intelligence that has evolved over millions of years to interpret sweetness as an indicator of energy content. That confusion appears to have far-reaching consequences for health and aging that we're only beginning to fully understand. Now that we've identified these 5 aging accelerators, let's talk about what you should be eating instead to support healthy, vibrant aging. The good news is that just as certain foods can accelerate aging, others can slow it down and even help reverse some aspects of age-related decline. Replace those inflammatory processed oils with stable, health-promoting fats that support cellular health and reduce inflammation. Extra virgin olive oil should be your primary cooking and dressing oil. Rich in polyphenols and monounsaturated fats, olive oil has been shown in numerous studies to reduce inflammation, support cardiovascular health, and even protect brain function as we age. A landmark study published in the New England Journal of Medicine found that older adults who consumed approximately 4 tablespoons of olive oil daily as part of a Mediterranean diet experienced significantly lower rates of cardiovascular events and showed less cognitive decline over a 4-8-year follow-up period compared to those following a low-fat diet. Other excellent fat choices include avocado oil for its high smoke point and monounsaturated fat content, coconut oil, particularly for its medium-chain triglycerides that support brain health, and grass-fed butter or ghee, which contain beneficial compounds like butyrate that support gut health. When shopping, look for oils in dark glass bottles. Light degrades oil quality, and with harvest dates when possible. Store them away from heat and light, and remember that quality matters tremendously when it comes to fats. This is one area where spending a bit more truly pays dividends for your health. Replace high-temperature cooking methods like grilling, broiling, and frying with gentler methods that produce fewer ages: steaming, boiling, poaching, slow cooking, and using a pressure cooker. These methods not only reduce age formation, but often better preserve the nutrients in your food. When you do grill or roast foods, marinate them first in acid-based marinades containing lemon juice, vinegar, or yogurt. Research published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry found that marinating meats for even just 30 minutes before cooking reduced age formation by up to 50%. The acidic environment inhibits the chemical reactions that form ages. Include foods rich in compounds that can block age formation and help your body eliminate those that do form. These include turmeric, containing curcumin, a powerful age inhibitor; berries, rich in anthocyanins that protect against glycation; leafy greens, high in alpha-lipoic acid that helps neutralize ages; green tea contains catechins that inhibit age formation; cinnamon contains compounds that mimic insulin and reduce blood sugar spikes that lead to age formation. A study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that adults over 60 who regularly consumed these age-inhibiting foods showed significantly lower levels of circulating ages in their bloodstream and demonstrated better arterial function and less stiffness in their tissues compared to those who didn't regularly consume these protective foods. Replace ultra-processed foods with whole, minimally processed alternatives that support rather than destroy your microbiome. Focus on fiber-rich foods that feed beneficial gut bacteria, including a wide variety of colorful vegetables and fruits, legumes like lentils, chickpeas, and beans, whole, intact grains like oats, quinoa, and brown rice, fermented foods like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, and kimchi, prebiotic-rich foods like garlic, onions, leeks, asparagus, and Jerusalem artichokes. Dr. Justin Sonnenberg, a microbiologist at Stanford University, emphasizes that diversity is key. Different beneficial bacteria thrive on different types of fiber, so the more varied your plant intake, the more diverse and resilient your microbiome will be. He recommends aiming for 30 different plant foods each week, a goal that sounds daunting until you realize that herbs, spices, nuts, seeds, grains, and legumes all count toward this total. A study published in the journal Gut followed adults aged 65-85 who transitioned from a typical Western diet high in ultra-processed foods to a diet rich in the whole foods listed above. After just 12 weeks, the researchers observed significant improvements in microbiome diversity, reduced markers of inflammation, improved immune function, and even enhanced cognitive performance. Replace foods with added sugars with naturally sweet alternatives and foods that help stabilize blood sugar rather than spike it. Consider whole fruits, particularly berries, which are lower in sugar and high in antioxidants. Sweet vegetables like carrots, beets, and sweet potatoes. Dark chocolate, 70% cocoa or higher, for occasional treats. Spices like cinnamon, nutmeg, and cardamom to add sweetness without sugar. When you do need to sweeten foods, consider small amounts of raw honey, which contains beneficial enzymes, or monk fruit extract, which doesn't appear to have the negative metabolic effects of artificial sweeteners. Just as important as what you eat is how you eat it. Consuming protein and fiber with carbohydrates significantly slows sugar absorption and reduces glycation. A study in diabetes care found that adults over 60 who consumed protein before carbohydrates showed significantly lower post-meal blood glucose levels compared to those who ate the same foods in the reverse order. Dr. Mark Hyman, founder of the Cleveland Clinic Center for Functional Medicine, recommends what he calls the PFF breakfast, a morning meal containing adequate protein, fiber, and healthy fats, with minimal carbohydrates. How you start your day metabolically sets the pattern for the next 24 hours, he explains. A stable blood sugar in the morning leads to stable blood sugar all day, and instead of turning to artificial sweeteners to satisfy sweet cravings, work on gradually retraining your palate to be satisfied with less sweetness overall. This isn't about deprivation, but rather recalibrating your taste buds to appreciate the natural sweetness in whole foods. Dr. Susan Roberts, a professor of nutrition at Tufts University, explains that our taste preferences are remarkably adaptable, even as we age. Studies show that within 2 to 3 weeks of reducing sweetener consumption, people actually begin to prefer less sweet tastes. Foods that once seemed bland begin to reveal complex, satisfying flavors. When you do need a sweetener, consider small amounts of stevia or monk fruit extract, which appear to have fewer negative metabolic effects than artificial sweeteners or regular sugar. However, even these should be used sparingly as you work to adapt to less sweetness overall. Focus on developing a greater appreciation for complex flavors through herbs, spices, fermented foods, and cooking techniques that bring out the natural flavors in food. Many people find that as they age, their ability to taste sweetness remains stronger than their ability to taste other flavors, making it a perfect time to explore the wide world of flavors beyond sweet. A study published in the Journal of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics found that adults over 55 who participated in a flavor training program, gradually reducing sweeteners while increasing herbs, spices, and umami-rich foods, reported greater food satisfaction and showed better metabolic markers after 12 weeks compared to a control group who made no dietary changes. As we reach the end of our journey together today, I want you to take a moment to truly envision two possible futures stretching out before you. In one future, you continue consuming the 5 aging accelerators we've discussed: the processed vegetable oils, the age-rich foods, the ultra-processed products, the added sugars, and the artificial sweeteners. In this future, inflammation continues to simmer throughout your body. Your cells age faster than they should. Your energy declines. Your skin loses elasticity more rapidly. Your joints become stiffer and more painful. Your cognitive function diminishes. This isn't meant to frighten you. It's simply the biological reality of continuing these dietary patterns. But there's another future available to you, one where you make the conscious choice, starting today, to minimize these aging accelerators and embrace the nourishing alternatives we've discussed. In this future, your cells receive the building blocks they need for proper function and repair. Inflammation subsides, energy returns, your skin retains more of its youthful appearance, your joints move with less pain, your mind stays sharper, your biological age begins to diverge from your chronological age in the right direction. The remarkable truth about aging is that it's far more fluid and adaptable than we once believed. Dr. David Sinclair, a professor of genetics at Harvard Medical School and one of the world's foremost longevity researchers, puts it this way: only about 20% of how we age is genetic. The rest, a full 80%, is epigenetic, meaning it's influenced by our environment and lifestyle choices, with diet being perhaps the most powerful lever we have. This means that regardless of your age now, whether you're 55 or 75 or anywhere in between, it's never too late to change your trajectory. Your body has an astonishing capacity for renewal and regeneration when given the right tools. I've seen this transformation countless times among viewers who have implemented these changes. People like Richard, a 72-year-old former teacher who wrote to tell me that after eliminating these 5 aging accelerators, the persistent joint pain that had plagued him for decades diminished so dramatically that he was able to resume hiking, a passion he'd reluctantly abandoned in his early 60s. Or Margaret, 68, who shared that within just 2 months of making these dietary shifts, friends began asking if she'd had work done because her skin had regained so much of its former elasticity and glow. "I haven't looked this good in 15 years, she wrote. "And more importantly, I haven't felt this good either." These aren't anomalies or exaggerations. They're the natural result of aligning your diet with your body's actual needs, of working with your biology rather than against it. The choice before you isn't about perfection. It's not about never enjoying a dessert again or obsessing over every morsel that crosses your lips. It's about awareness and predominance, being conscious of these aging accelerators and significantly reducing their presence in your daily diet. Start where you are. Perhaps begin by eliminating just one of these accelerators this week. Maybe switch from vegetable oils to olive oil, or replace your artificial sweeteners with small amounts of natural alternatives. Small, consistent changes accumulate into profound transformations over time. Remember that healthy aging isn't merely about extending lifespan, it's about extending health span. The portion of your life spent in robust health, free from the chronic diseases and disabilities that many incorrectly assume are inevitable parts of growing older. If this information has been valuable to you, please help us spread this message to others who might benefit. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with friends and family members who deserve to know these truths about how their dietary choices may be affecting how they age. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Which of these aging accelerators were you most surprised by? Which will you focus on eliminating first? Your experiences and insights not only help me create better content for you, but they also inspire and guide others on their own journeys toward healthier aging. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Here's to your health, your vitality, and to many vibrant years ahead. Remember, your best years truly can be ahead of you when you give your body what it truly needs to thrive.